Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. It is once again our regular Wednesday evening of fellowship, our Bible study gathering, and we are happy to greet you who can see me as well as I can see you, as well as to greet those people who I can't see but they can see us. Let's begin our time together with prayer like we do. Gracious God, we thank you for another day's journey and for the gift of your word for our direction, a lamp for our feet and a light for our pathways. Honor your own word, as you've said, where two or three gather in your name, you'd be in the midst of them. Speak to our hearts and our minds that by the sharing of your word together, we might be edified even as you are glorified. In the name of Christ, our Savior and Lord, we pray. Amen. We have been judging for the last season in the book of Judges, and we continue resume our conversation tonight in the 8th chapter of Judges, around the, I think it's the 17th or 18th verse. We have had opportunity to see Gideon at work. Gideon in battle, as a matter of fact, and we've last time we were together talking about the aftermath, what happened after the battle was over, as Gideon began to celebrate to some degree and to glory in another degree over his victory. We had a conversation about the way Gideon, in wisdom and his obedience to the directions he received from God, was enlisted some assistance for his army, his recovering army. They were tired and they were hungry, and he asked some people from other tribes to participate, and initially they declined outright, and then when Gideon told them what he thought about how successful they had been in their own right, I think he softened the blow of the people who were not invited to go to battle when he went to battle with his 300, and now he's still, by the time we get to the middle of this chapter 18, he's still about the business of looking for two kings who have offended his people, and that's where we pick up tonight, reading verses, I think, Lorna, if we could start at verse 17, and we'll do 17 through 20, and then we'll pick it up from there. He also pulled down the tower of Peniel and killed the men of the town. He then asked Zebul and Zalmunna, what kind of men did you kill at Tabor? Mm-hmm. Men like you, they answered, each one with the bearing of a prince. No, look, he's shining them on now. So what kind of men, what kind of people did you kill? He said, oh man, y'all some bad people. People just like y'all. Everybody walks like, you know what bearing is. It's how they carried themselves. Gideon replied, those were my brothers, the sons of my own mother. And as surely as the Lord lives, if you had spared their lives, I would not kill you. Turning to Jether, his oldest son, he said, kill him. But Jether did not draw his sword because he was only a boy and was afraid. It seems we can infer from the fact that Gideon turns to his youngest, his own son, still a child, and gives him the instructions to kill these two kings. Why do you think that is? Yes. Oh, you know microphones? Okay.
His son was probably going to be the next king.
Well, I think we'll save that when you get down a little further. I think it would certainly been a good look for his son for the rest of his life if, as a boy, he had killed these two kings, and so he would forever be known as the man who shot Liberty Valance, or the man who killed Billy the Kid. So that kind of reputation would have followed him for the rest of his life. But I think the other thing it would have done was it would have been humiliating for these two kings after they've been fighting with soldiers. They've been fighting with people who they say had the bearing of princes. So it would have been an act of humiliation for these two kings to be put to death by a boy. Seems like a proud moment for Gideon, a moment, and this is the same man who had been 2 chapters ago so reluctant to come forward to do anything, but now he has the courage like a lion. He's ready to kill everything and kill everybody, and they're being pretty effective at it at that, at taking people down. Let's see, verse 21. Zebul and Zalmunna said, "Come do it yourself. As is the man, so is his strength." So Gideon stepped forward and killed them and took the ornaments off their camels' necks. What does that mean? Come do it yourself. He doesn't want to, yes, ma'am. Hey, Deacon.
It speaks to the king saying, you come do it yourself. Mm-hmm. It's the honor
right
that they want,
yeah,
that a king killed a king, you know.
Yeah, well, the leader, remember, Israel doesn't have a king. Joshua is a judge. Gideon is a judge, so they don't have a king. But he's very obviously their leader, and he's very obviously the one to whom the people find themselves looking up. And so I think you're right that they wanted. Someone has said that the two kings wanted to be killed by Gideon because Gideon was a skilled swordsman and could make it happen quickly. It wouldn't be raggedy and ugly. If a boy had done it, the boy might have sawed off the necks a little bit at a time. Maybe didn't have the strength to do it, or maybe didn't have the experience to do that kind of thing. But we're in chapter 8, Deacon. I think this is verse 21. But Gideon had a reputation as a skilled swordsman, and was had lots of experience. And certainly he has some brand new experience, and so they both get the honor of having their lives. It matters to some soldiers how they die. Some soldiers want to die proudly. They want to go down fighting. They want to, if they die, they want to look good doing it. Myself, I just assume just not die in battle and just look good whole, without being cut. But these soldiers respected Gideon, and Gideon may have had some anger about him, having told them, "Those were my brothers who you killed. That's the men you killed were the sons of my own mother." And so maybe he had some anger about himself when it comes to that. It's very human, I think, for a person to feel that they want personally to retaliate. If you've been offended, then you want to be the one who who makes it right. So rather than you could have expected him to say, no, don't you kill him, Jethro, let me kill him, because what they've done is an offense to me. Of course, what they've done is an offense to the whole people of Israel. So it's an offense to everybody. Verse, that was 21. Let's do 22. I think it's 25. The Israelites said to Gideon, rule over us, you, your son, and your grandson, because you have saved us from the hand of Midian. That is Deacon Bell. They wanted him to be a king. This is what Moses warned them might happen, that one day they would want a king just like other nations had a king. But who was their king? God was their king. And so they didn't need a king. They didn't need a king before whom they could bow down. They didn't need a king to provide for them, a king to take care of them, a king to defend them. They had God as their king. But like so many people, they wanted a God they could see. They wanted a king who they could look at, and then they wanted to be certain of some succession. So if Gideon was as courageous and as skillful and as wise and knowledgeable as he was, then it stands to reason that so would his son and grandson be. And so they were eager to elevate Gideon and to make him their king. But Gideon resisted, because Gideon did know that God is. Gideon told them, I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. And he said, I have one request, that each of you give me an earring from your share of the plunder. It was the custom of the Ishmaelites to wear gold earrings. And they answered, we'd be glad to give them to you. So they spread out a garment, and each of them threw a ring from his plunder onto it. The weight of the gold rings he asked for came to 1,700 shekels. I don't know how much that is. 42 pounds. That's a lot of gold in there. And not counting the ornaments, the pendants, and the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains that were on their camels' necks. Gideon made the gold into an ephod, which he placed in Ophrah, his hometown. All Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his family. Here he goes. He takes. This is not the first time they've taken precious items and used them to fashion something that they could worship. It was never certainly God's intention, and not Gideon's intention, that Gideon would make something that they would worship. He had said, you won't make unto me any graven image. They didn't want an image to be an image of God. That was one of the commandments. And so here they are again, wanting something they could see. With those three ladies, giving them something he can feel. People want something they could feel. They want something they can see. They want to be able to go to the king's house and see the king in his house. And so we stopped short of that most of the time in our own times by not worshiping. I've said to you before, not worshiping the building, and not losing sight of the fact that God is here, but God is also there. God is immanent, present, but God is also transcendent. So we make a big deal out of the fact that God is everywhere at the same time. They blew it. Yes, ma'am.
It's amazing how in the earlier verse 23, where they wanted Gideon to rule over them, and he said, I'm not going to do that. He said, only God can rule over you. But then he allowed himself to slip subtly into this place with the gold in his house.
A little plunder. That's why I said earlier that he was a little proud of himself, and proud enough of himself to allow himself to be elevated a little bit and celebrated a little bit. So they brought all these precious things and made something for wearing, and people used it to remember what happened to them in the Battle of the 300. And it's so easy to take credit, to want to take credit, to want to have credit. He had told Gideon before he raised the army, the army of 300, I don't want you to have too many, because if you have too many, you will think it was you who did it. And I want to make it clear that it's not you and any number of thousands of soldiers. It's God. It's me, he said. And yet Gideon gets these two kings and their followers and puts them on the run. And he threatens them with an ugly death, and then he dispatches them one by one. 24. Thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites and did not raise its head again. During Gideon's lifetime, the land had peace for 40 years. 40 years, a lot of people had peace for 40 years. Then there was my man, Shamgar. Jerub-Baal, the son of Joash, went, and that's Gideon, went back home to live. He had 70 sons of his own, for he had many wives. His concubine, who lived in Shechem, also bore him a son, whom he named Abimelek. Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Asberites. No sooner had Gideon died than the Israelites again prostituted themselves to the Baals and set up El-Berith as their god, and did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hands of all their enemies on every side. They also failed to show any loyalty to the family of Gideon, in spite of all the good things he had done for them. They wanted to make him their king. That's what they said. And they wanted to make his sons and grandsons their kings. That's what they said. But people don't always do what they say, and they don't always mean what they say. For when Joshua was around, they did a really, really good job of maintaining faithfulness. But when Joshua was gone, they fell quickly into their old ways. And then now Gideon helps them to a place where they could be proud. But when Gideon was gone, they again forgot about God. They left God behind. It's the story, I think. The farther away you get from a miracle, the easier it is to forget that the miracle took place in the first place. So here they are, not that many years removed from being rescued from perishing, but as they have a good day, followed by another good day, followed by another good day, they forget about the time when they didn't have so many good days. They forgot about how God had brought them through. Yes, ma'am.
It tends to speak to people that you have to examine why, as long as they had a good leader, they stayed in line. And they were staying in line because of their leader. So when the leader is not in place, they fall away. So it raises the question of why people, are they believing for themselves or are they believing for the leader?
Well, I think that it's one reason reliable, trustworthy leaders are essential because they set standards. And just like the people wanted to be able to see God, they thought they wanted to be able to see God, they were inspired when they saw Gideon. If they disappoint God, then the chances are he won't say anything. But if they disappoint Gideon, if they disappoint an earthly leader, it's a good chance, a good likelihood that the earthly leader is going to express disappointment. I think I told you Sunday about when my boys were boys, when my sons were boys, they didn't want to disappoint me. When they disappointed me by misbehavior, they begged for a spanking. When what they really got was a whole lot of disappointment and anguish and hand wringing, and me telling them how much they had let me down. But when Gideon was gone, and before the next person rises to that stature in life, they fall away, they fall apart. It happens in churches when church is between pastors, unless it has called a pastor before the pastor resigns or dies or what, then it's a smooth transition. But often, if they don't do that, lots of people find themselves falling away. So people wander off and become parts of other congregations. Sometimes they come back when a new pastor is installed, but for the most part, in my experience, they don't. And what you get is a brand new crowd. You get some more people to go with fewer people who remained. But I think you're right when you say that they followed. It's easy to get to follow the wrong leader. And Paul said, "Follow me as I follow Christ," and that's the mark of a good leader, who himself knows that even if he's in front, he has a leader too, and so that it's not Gideon who is responsible for the wisdom that he acquired, but it's God who made Gideon wise, and God who kept Gideon, God who made Gideon victorious, who made Gideon effective. God went before him and around him and enabled him to do what he did with just a handful of soldiers compared to the thousands that he fought against. I think it happens in lots of organizations, including families. We've started in the last few years to acknowledge family matriarchs and patriarchs, and to often see these people as the ones who hold families together, so that with the demise of a matriarch or patriarch, sometimes members of the family. I used to go home on a fairly regular basis. And when I had a lot of siblings at home and a lot of nieces and nephews, then it was, and my mother, my father died when I was 14. Then it was easy for me to want to go home because I would get who I would get to see. But the more trips we make to the cemetery, when we gather now, there are fewer and fewer of us who decide to come together, not who could come together, but who decide to come together. Want to. That's our nephews that I didn't see when I was home earlier this month. They just didn't bother. Lots of the family gathered. There was a crowd at Brenda's house. We had the food catered and cost $600. That's how big the crowd was. So we had a lot of people, but not everybody. They've decided not to come. All right, I think that happened in Gideon chapter 8. What I miss? I miss anything? All right. You ready to go, Lorna? Chapter 9? Huh? Say that again. Oh, okay. All right. Then we'll everybody got your Bible, right? And we're going from chapter 9. Anybody feel like reading? Who will?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm reading from the NIV.
Okay.
Abimelek, son of Jerub-Baal, went to his mother's brothers in Shechem and said to them and to all his mother's clan, ask all the citizens of Shechem, which is better for you, to have all 70 of Jerub-Baal's sons rule over you, or just one man? Remember, I am your flesh and blood. When the brothers repeated all this to the citizens of Shechem, they were inclined to follow Abimelek, for they said, he is related to us. They gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of El-Berith, and Abimelek used it to hire reckless scoundrels who became his followers. He went to his father's home in Ophrah, and on one stone murdered his 70 brothers. Whew. The son of Jerub-Baal, But Jotham, the youngest son, the youngest son of Jerub-Baal, escaped by hiding. Then all the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo gathered beside the great tree at the pillar of Shechem to crown Abimelek king. When Jotham was told about this, he climbed up on top of Mount Gerizim and shouted to them, listen to me, citizens of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. One day the trees went out to anoint a king for themselves. They said to the olive tree, be our king. But the olive tree answered, shall I give up my oil, by which both gods and humans are honored, to hold sway over the trees? Next, the trees said to the fig tree, come and be our king. But the fig tree replied, shall I give up my fruit, so good and sweet, to hold sway over the trees? Then the trees said to the vine, come and be our king. But the vine answered, should I give up my wine, which cheers both gods and humans, to hold sway over the trees? Finally, all the trees said to the thorn bush, come and be our king. The thorn bush said to the trees, if you really want to anoint me king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, Then let fire come out of the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon.
What happened? It's a metaphor. Here are these, this Abimelek.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
No kings.
Yeah, has this idea
Yeah.
that he's supposed to be elevated. And so he conspires. He said, tell you what, go ask people who they want to be their king and see what they say. And then he takes his own brothers, his own relatives, and he assassinates them. So he gets rid of the competition. And then we have a story in the language of a metaphor describing how this thorn bush, the least, called all of the other trees into itself and then destroyed it, burn it up by fire. It's stuck on the thorns of the thorny bush. I guess it's not really an insurrection, but it's like a hostile takeover. So Abimelek sets out to seize power to himself, and he does it by doing what a lot of people in that part of the world, not normally Jewish people, did in that part of the world, and that is to annihilate the competition. So to kill everybody else, so you don't have people to fight against. The desire of some people, perhaps still alive, had been that Gideon and Gideon's son and Gideon's son's son would be their ruler, but it was met with resistance. It's like when this country was being formed, the people contemplated whether George Washington should be the first king of the United States, and George Washington said he didn't want to be a king. He resisted that kind of political structure in this country. They'd come from another country trying to get away from another king, and so why would he come and create a new kingdom on this soil? And so instead, what was formed is a democratic republic, so that people were supposed to get votes, and votes were supposed to be counted so that the majority ruled. And now we are, this many years later, in a place where we are trying to overcome another power struggle so that the minority wants to rule, and they want to do what they have to change the system of government so that everybody who should vote, everybody's old enough to vote, doesn't get to vote, and everybody's vote doesn't get counted. So it's another opportunity to seize power, because that's what we are like. What we like to do, what human beings like to do, is seize power. And these here we are with this crowd trying to seize. This individual, this Abimelek, trying to seize power. I wondered what was going to happen when I saw that how many sons Gideon had for his many wives, and then how the writer has isolated the fact that a concubine of his had one son, and that one son is the one who ends up throwing his weight around. Maybe that's the effort of the writer of this text, to show us that Abimelek was an illegitimate ruler, because he didn't come up the right way. Have you ever wanted to be the president of anything? The mayor of anything? Yeah, I'm that guy who I don't need to be. I don't need to seize power. I like to share power, because when you share power, you share responsibility. But when you seize power like that, you end up also seizing responsibility, because all that goes together. I think it's a particularly dangerous thing to do, to try to seize power like Trump is trying to seize power, because of when you get it, you got to know what to do with it. When Ronald Reagan became president, it was like, now what do I do? Because he was a good actor and a good, fairly successful governor. He was a racist, but after he got to the place in life where he was sitting in the White House, he acted like a president, and sometimes he did all right, but sometimes he did all wrong. But he sought to try to figure out what to do after he got into the position. And other people have an idea about what they want to do, and then they try to get into a position, but in position they don't know what to do. And so what one guy did when he got the position was nothing but mess things up. Can we continue, Lorna?
16.
Yes, ma'am. Huh? What verse?
16.
16. She'll catch up. Okay.
Have you acted honorably in good faith by making Abimelek king? Have you been fair to Jerub-Baal and his family? Have you treated him as he deserves? Remember that my father fought for you and risked his life to rescue you from the hand of Midian. But today you have revolted against my father's family. You have murdered his 70 sons on a single stone and have made Abimelek, the son of his female slave, king over the citizens of Shechem, because he is related to you. So have you acted honorably and in good faith toward Jerub-Baal and his family today? If you have, make Abimelek be your joy, and may you be his too. But if you have not, let fire come from Abimelek and consume you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come out from you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and consume Abimelek. Then Jotham fled, escaping to Beer, and he lived there because he was afraid of his brother Abimelek. After Abimelek had governed Israel 3 years, God stirred up animosity between Abimelek and the citizens of Shechem, so that they acted treacherously against Abimelek. God did this in order that the crime against Jerub-Baal's 70 sons, the shedding of their blood, might be avenged on their brother Abimelek and on the citizens of Shechem, who had helped him murder his brothers.
In opposition to him, these citizens of Shechem sent men on the hilltops to ambush and rob everyone who passed by, and this was reported to Abimelek. Now Gaal, son of Ebed, moved with his clan into Shechem, and its citizens put their confidence in him. So here is a situation where one brother of Abimelek takes exception to the fact that Abimelek has been so ruthless and so treacherous, has cheated his way into position, And the very people who said who helped him to be elevated are the people who now want to bring him down. That's how it goes. So he made his bed hard. And so he had to lay in it. So what goes around often comes around. Where the people had been so careful for times past about following the lead, the God's lead, now they find themselves more and more being led astray. And instead of listening to God for an appointment, they listen to this loudmouth Abimelek who kind of tricks his way into a position of power, and he convinces these people to elevate him, and then I think the text said in around verse 20, where God raised up animosity among them. They found out the truth about each other. They found out the truth about how they had risen, Abimelek had risen to power, and the weakness that was in them, because they stopped following God. It was only 3 years. Just before this reign was Gideon's reign was 40 years as a judge, and the peace lasted 40 years after the battle of the 300. But now Abimelek comes to power, and he loses his way after only 3 years, and things begin to fall apart. It makes sense that if you trust sound advice and think forward and think ahead and remember lessons of your past, that you'll be able to avoid some of the problems that could happen in your future. They had been told in the days of Moses, one day y'all gonna feel like you want a king. When that happens, resist. God is our king. Is now, always will be. But they forgot about Moses, and they forgot about God. And by the time of Gideon's reign, they've lost sight of the fact that Moses had warned them there'd be a day like that when they would be trying to elevate somebody. And they heard, but they didn't heed. They heard what Gideon taught them, but they couldn't keep it, and so it fell apart. And the more and more it fell apart, and the more they got away from God, from listening to the leadings of God, the more things fell to disarray, and the more strife and infighting there was. And so Abimelek, who it seemed who aspired to having responsibility, he desired to have power. When he got it, it messed him up. It happens a lot when you elevate your own self. Yeah. Well, you don't have anything to stand on when you're standing on your own authority, as opposed to standing on the authority that comes from God. Yeah. Where do we stop, Lorna?
28.
There you go. Go ahead, Deacon.
Now Gaal, son of Ebed, moved with his clan into Shechem, and his citizens put their confidence in him. After they had gone out into the fields and gathered the grapes and trodden them, they held a festival in the temple of their God. While they were eating and drinking, they cursed Abimelech.
Is that the last verse?
Sir? Okay. Then Gaal, son of Ebed, said, "Who is Abimelech, and why should we Shechemites be subject to him? Isn't he Jerub-Baal's son, and isn't Zebul his deputy? Serve the family of Hamor, Shechem's father. Why should we serve Abimelech? If only this people were under my command, then I would get rid of him. I would say to Abimelech, call out your whole army."
What's going on? The strife, the infighting, the contention, the battle for power, it has turned people who were at once on the same side against one another. They have already, they're saying, who is Gideon anyway, that we have to honor his memory and honor stuff that he set in place. And so they allow themselves to go after the illusion that they're running things, and God's not. Come on.
When Zebul, the governor of the city, heard what Gaal, son of Ebed, said, he was very angry. Under cover, he sent messengers to Abimelech, saying, "Gaal, son of Ebed, and his clan have come to Shechem and are stirring up the city against you. Now then, during the night, you and your men should come and lie in wait in the fields. In the morning at sunrise, advance against the city. When Gaal and his men come out against you, seize the opportunity to attack them." So Abimelech and all his troops set out by night and took up concealed positions near Shechem in 4 companies. Now Gaal, son of Ebed, had gone out and was standing at the entrance of the city gate just as Abimelech and his troops came out from their hiding place. When Gaal saw them, he said to Zebul, "Look, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains." Zebul replied, "You mistake the shadows of the mountains for men." But Gaal spoke up again, Look, people are coming down from the central hill, and a company is coming from the direction of the diviner's tree." Then Zebul said to him, "Where is your big talk now, you who said, 'Who is Abimelech, that we should be subject to him?' Aren't these the men you ridiculed? Go out and fight them." So Gaal led out the citizens of Shechem and fought Abimelech. Abimelech chased them all the way to the entrance of the gate, and many were killed as they fled. Then Abimelech stayed in Arumah, and Zebul drove Gaal and his clan out of Shechem. The next day, the people of Shechem went out to the fields, and this was reported to Abimelech. So he took his men, divided them into 3 companies, and set an ambush in the fields. When he saw the people coming out of the city, he rose to attack them. Abimelech and the companies with him rushed forward to a position at the entrance of the city gate. Then 2 companies attacked those in the fields and struck them down. All that day, Abimelech pressed his attack against the city until he had captured it and killed its people.
It started with Abimelech's pride, and it continued with his dishonesty, and he managed to persuade lots of other people to follow him, and after some brief success, that 3 years of relative success, the pride, the dishonesty began to catch up with him. And I don't know, what we can say some things about the character of this man because of the numbers of times that he did things, dishonest things. So over and over, he uses the same tricks, trying to gather power to himself, and trying to enlarge his own following. And the more he does that, the more trouble ensues, because the more people you have, the more problems you have. Is that a Jay-Z thing? More people, no more problems? Or is it more money, more problems? I think it's more money, more problems. But they're both true. Yeah, so that if you have a bigger crowd, then you should expect, if you're doling out power and doling out gifts and doling out positions and doling out the things that people want, and not dealing with people equitably and honestly and fairly, then you should not be surprised that it turns out like it turns out. When they dishonor Gideon, they dishonor Gideon's God. When they fail to follow God's leadership, and God's instructions, and defile God by the kind of worship. I think this text said they went in somewhere and worshiped their God. So they have fallen away and stopped worshiping God the way they must, and as a result, they end up with a crumbling kingdom. So things continue falling apart, and it seems like every few days there's more and more trouble. So they go from one round of defeat to another. One braggart talking about his own successes and his own followings, to another challenging the first braggart and saying that I can beat him. I can take over the work that he's doing. And so it is just not enough for them to go around if they don't find a way to allow God to bless them, so that they get to share everything God gives to all of them, as opposed to one having more than another. Yes, ma'am.
And it brings you complete circle back to the type of leader, because the type of, after he had killed all 70 of his siblings, he began to lead the people. So that spoke to the kind of leader he was. So his followers was like him. Yeah. And if your leader is of integrity, you tend to have the integrity.
Yeah, he's the leader sets the standard. Yeah. So if it's all right to kill your brothers, ruthlessly kill, murder your brothers, then it says murder is all right. And so it doesn't faze them when it's looking around for some more people to murder. So if there ain't nothing wrong with killing them, all right, there ain't nothing wrong with killing you. And so the very people who had elevated him become the people who conspire to bring him down, like he did. They cheated to get in position, so now they're cheating to get him out of position. Yes, ma'am. Lauren, are you ready?
Then he destroyed the city and scattered salt over it. On hearing this, the citizens in the tower of Shechem went into the stronghold of the temple of El-Berith. When Abimelek heard that they had assembled there, he and all his men went up Mount Zalmon. He took an axe and cut off some branches, which he lifted to his shoulders. He ordered the men with him, "Quick, do what you have seen me do." So all the men cut branches and followed Abimelek. They piled them against the stronghold and set it on fire with the people still inside. So all the people in the tower of Shechem, about 1,000 men and women, also died. Next, Abimelek went to Thebez and besieged it and captured it. Inside the city, however, was a strong tower to which all the men and women, all the people of the city had fled. They had locked themselves in and climbed up to the tower roof. Abimelek went to the tower and attacked it. But as he approached the entrance of the tower to set it on fire, a woman dropped an upper millstone on his head and cracked his skull.
So if it was an embarrassment to be killed by a little boy, now he did not die with honor. He died a most inglorious, a most undignified death. He died in humiliation. He died like he lived. A lady dropped a rock on his, dropped a bomb on him. dropped a rock on his head and cracked his skull. So he can't even say that he died in battle. He died when a woman dropped a rock on his head.
By mistake.
Did I do that? No. So she did it. She said, "Did I do that? Did I drop it?"
Oops.
You all right? Yeah. So he lived a humiliating life, and he died a humiliated death. He lived like he died. He died like he lived. And so the kingdom is lost. The kingdom that he had constructed for himself, the kingdom that he made up for himself, is lost. And so all that he had in mind when he decided that he wanted to take over falls apart, and he doesn't get to do what he said he was going to do. So he prepared the way for his own death, but he didn't mean to. And I guess God will get you out one way or another when it's time. It's time. What is that? 2 more verses. Read them.
Hurriedly, he called to his armor bearer, "Draw your sword and kill me, so that they can't say a woman killed him." So his servant ran him through, and he died.
Yeah, okay.
When the Israelites saw that Abimelek was dead, they went home. Thus, God repaid the wickedness that Abimelek had done to his father by murdering his 70 brothers. God also made the people of Shechem pay for all of their wickedness. The curse of Jotham, son of Jerub-Baal, came on them.
Gideon's curse came to them. They got what they made. All right, we'll continue our conversation next week with chapters 10 through 12, and see how God brings his people around from this shame to his glory. Thank you for being a part of our conversation tonight, and we pray that God will keep you and keep us until we get together again. Meet us on Saturday here between 1 and 5 physically at Olive Grove. There'll be lots of good information to share from the city and from various nonprofit and religious organizations around that serve populations. Lots of giveaways, including cooked food, cooked meals prepared by Mercy Chefs, and food prepared and boxed by the food bank for distribution. And then, of course, lots of school supplies for children, free clothing, Be free haircuts. I could use a free haircut myself. And you want one? All right. Me and Ron get that. And Al Bung will be in line. Al and Ron will be first in line. Come see us. Come see us Sunday at 11 o'clock. And if you can't come physically, come digitally, virtually, by going to our YouTube channel or Facebook, and you'll find us there at worship. In the meantime, God bless you and good night.